Okay, I'm here together with Jane McConnell at the end of the Enterprise to O Summit. Jane, you have been presenting the results of the Digital Workplace Trends study. It's the first presentation after the publication. So what were the key results?
Well, thank you for asking me, Bjorn, because I finished it and delivered the report on Sunday, and I took the train to come here on Monday. So the results are fresh in my mind. I would say three of the really big points I'd like to make are that the digital workplace is becoming much more focused on serving the customer-facing workforce. And that's a pretty fundamental change for most organizations because it's an internal combination of different digital platforms, so people forget, they think it's internal, serve the workforce, but it's not. Organizations are there to serve their customers, and the digital workplace is a big enabler for that. So that's one takeaway from my research. Second thing that's really important is that there's a new component in organizational design. It's not new for people who follow trends, but it's new for a lot of companies and organizations, and that is the role of communities. And so you have hierarchical structures and communities that have existed in the past as discussion groups and topics of interest and fairly casual are beginning to take on a real role in organizations. They're the custodians of knowledge in many organizations. So they're very complementary. They don't replace hierarchies, obviously, but they're gaining more power.
It's the second layer.
I wouldn't call it a second layer, I'd call it a layer that's like this. You've got the hierarchy like this, and you've got the organizational communities that go across a lot of the silos in organizations. So that's an important second trend. For many companies, that's quite a change. Third change is actually that people are becoming more empowered in organizations, and a number of companies that took the survey this year gave me lots of stories and anecdotes about how they're using real-time voice and video communication tools to talk in real time whenever they need to with colleagues around the world. And they're talking about how it's bringing people together and it's making things more human and authentic in a way that email never could. And it's actually decreasing the amount of email in some organizations. So that's a good thing. But mainly it's bringing people closer together. So I say those are three big observations that I made this year.
When you're saying that it should support the workforce and the big objectives is to supporting the workforce, those combinations of different digital services or tools and within the company should work closely together. Is this already the case today?
To different degrees. In fact, one thing I did this year was, with the help of the advisory board, of which you remember, we defined a scorecard that highlights three different perspectives on the digital workplace. The first is capabilities of people, business, and the enterprise, enablers, and then the mindset, the leadership, the culture, and treating it as a strategic asset. And part of that last point is making the systems work together because it is essential for doing business today. And most organizations are just beginning. On the maturity scale, the majority were on level 2 out of a typical 5-level scale. So there's a lot of progress to be made in the digital workplace mind, I would say, which is one of a holistic approach to all the digital tools that people have to do their jobs. So things are beginning to come together, but in general, for most companies, they're not really unified yet.
So we're at the end of the Enterprise SEO Summit 2014. What are your key takeaways?
We have seen a lot of things from a lot of different angles. One thing that struck me is that we are beginning to have some real case studies that are showing how enterprises are transforming themselves. So we saw one this afternoon from a small 900 employees, a fairly small organization that is really beginning to work in a different way. And it's exciting to see case studies like that, and we had some good ones this time. Second aspect is that last year in this summit, and even maybe the previous year, we talked about how we don't want to talk anymore about why do we need to change, why do we need to become more collaborative. People know that now. And the question is, how do we do it? What exactly do we do? And I felt like that came out in a number of examples and experts who were talking. A lot of it comes down to focusing on the individual. It focuses on getting people to work together, having a different attitude towards work. I mean, there's just so many things. it's hard to summarize it in just a few takeaways like that.
Okay, great. Thank you for the interview.
Well, it was a pleasure, and thank you for having me here. Look forward to next year.
Yeah.